finally doing some first impression swatches of the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. I know many of you guys are probably still trying to order this thing. I keep seeing that it sells out basically as soon as they list some more on Sephora or Ulta or Too Faced themselves. This palette has pretty much been hyped for a solid 6 months. I feel like I have been waiting for this palette to come out. I feel like it is especially near and dear to my heart because, my friends, we call ourselves the natural peaches, the fresh natural peaches, and so every time I see and smell this palette, I think of my friends. This palette comes with 18 different eyeshadows. I feel like there are a ton in here, and they do smell very, very strongly of peaches, just about as strongly as the chocolate palettes smell like chocolate. Like you can open them up in a room and suddenly you're like, oh, chocolate or peaches in this case. So if you don't like peachy smelling things, you might not like this palette. I always get asked, like, if you're allergic to chocolate or you're allergic to peaches or you're allergic to peanut butter, can you use these different makeups? And honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I have no idea how Too Faced makes their palettes smell so magical. I wish I could answer that question and be more helpful than I am, but I can't. I don't know anything. You get the palette and you also get this little flip out guide that has 3 suggestions. It says 3 looks that you can do in 3 minutes, but who can do something this elaborate in 3 minutes? Okay, not on your life, but at least, you know, like if you don't do eyeshadow all the time, you can look at these suggestions and get some ideas. Let's just go through. I'm going to go this way in the palette, like 1, 2, 3, you know. Let's go through and do the swatches because there are 18 of them and that's gonna take me a hot minute to get through. Side note, all of my eyeshadow today, which I've had on for quite a while, was done with this palette. I finally did something today other than a like natural, neutral, smoky eye. I saw this palette and I really wanted to do a, oh, it's the Honey Slog. Excuse me just a minute. I looked at this and I was sure inspired to do an orange and purple eye look, which is way out of my realm of what I normally rub on my eyeballs, but I'm liking it. I'm digging it. Oh, and I know that I'm going to get asked this a lot. So my lip color today is the new Ultra Satin Lippy from ColourPop Cosmetics. I don't see it at the moment, but it's in the shade, oh, here it is, Botanical. I wanted to say Botanica, but it's Botanical. All right, back to getting into them swatchy swatches. The very first shade in here is called White Peach, which I think is a realistic thing that you can eat. This is basically just like a nice white base shadow. It will brighten other shadows that you put on top of it. You could use it as a transition color. Basically, wherever you want a stark white eyeshadow, that's what you can do with this one. The next one in here is called Luscious. It is a metallic shade. I would have to say it's like a light rose gold color, like very light on the rose. Mostly just gold. It's nice though. The next shade is just peachy, and for me, this is almost like a pink color. It looks very bubblegummy pink to me, even though it's called peach. It also has just a tiny bit of metallic to it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use this one so much myself because pink is usually not my thing. Moving right along to Bless Her Heart, which is such a hilarious name for eyeshadow because that's what we say in Texas. I guess it's like a southern thing, but you just say like, oh, bless your heart. This shadow is a unique kind of color. It definitely is a metallic-y, shimmery shade. That's a lot of S's to try and say with my big pony teeth. It's kind of like a unique metallic color. It's not like a metal that I can easily identify. It's kind of like an old gold, like if you find some like rusty old hunk of gold laying around. This is the color I'd imagine it would be. Next shade in here is Tempting, which is one of the darkest shades in the palette. It once again kind of has a tinge of metallic to it, a very dark metallic. There is a metal like this, and I can't think of, maybe it's like brass. Maybe that's a good word for it. Next is a color in here I really like, which is called Charmed, I'm sure, and it is a nice chestnutty brown matte shade. It's a very creamy matte, though. It's not chalky at all, which I'm thankful for that. Moving on to row number 2. The first shade in here, well, the first shade for this row is called Nectar, and this is a yellowy gold kind of shade. I almost can't tell if this is a matte or like a little bit of a shimmery kind of shade. It definitely doesn't have any glitter in it. It might be like just a little bit metallic, but I definitely am picking up on that kind of like yellowy. I mean, this is a very peachy color, right? It looks like fruit. Next in here, you get Cobbler, which is another metallic shade. It's nice and warm and bronzy, maybe like the stem of the peach would be this color. Next is one of my favorite shades in the palette, which I have on my eyelids today, and it is called Candied Peach. And this is definitely one of the most unique eyeshadows I have seen in a hot minute. It has that nice bright orangey shade to it, and it is a shimmer. It does have fine little shimmery glitter in it, but the glitter itself is not like a normal eyeshadow glitter shade. It is like a purpley pink glitter. It just blends in so nicely with the shadow. It's not like how some shimmers you just, like you see a lot of glitter, because the glitter meshes so well with the color. I am McLovin' it. Next shade in here is Bellini, and this is a true rose gold metallic to me. Very rosy, very rose gold, very metallic. I like it a lot. I think it's very pretty. Next shade I used in my transition today on my own eyeball. That is the shade Peach Pit. When you look at it in the palette, it looks very purpley, like plum, but when you apply it and you swatch it on your body, it looks more, I guess it does look kind of plum. In some lights, it looks like darker than purple. It's not like, oh, I'm the Joker and it's purple everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's like more of a dark, demure, plum kind of purple. Next up is Delectable, which I really feel like this totally could have been in the peanut butter and jelly palette, or I feel like it would go really well with these two purple colors in that Too Faced palette. If you guys have that, if my camera's focusing on it, I don't really know what's going on right now. It definitely does remind me of grape jelly, but once again, it's not like a bright purple color. It is more of a rich plum kind of color. Creepy things are happening in my house again lately. That's another story for another day. Now we are into the last row, row 3. Shade number 1 on row 3 is Peaches and Cream, which for me is a fabulous transition shade. I have it on my eyes today. I use this as kind of like my base transition shade, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't. Next color in here is Georgia, and that was my all over base shade for my look today. Not like you could still see that because I covered it with many other eyeshadows. This is a sort of peachy pink shade to me. It comes off like just a little bit orangey on my skin. I really like it. I feel like it almost looks different when I put it on my eyeball or when I swatch it on my arm, which that doesn't make any sense. That can't really be happening. Up next is Caramelized, and this is once again a very rich, metallic, bronzy kind of shadow. I feel like this is a more fiery bronze, if that makes any sense. It looks a lot brighter and a lot darker. That is definitely not possible. Brighter and darker. That's like a really big oxymoron. Next shadow in here is Puree. Puree. Yeah, that's what that is. I was like, Puree. This is one of my favorite shadows in this palette. It is a weird brown. It's like a good looking brown. It is a very opaque shadow. You don't have to use very much of it to get a lot of pigmentation, and it's almost like a orangey brown, if that's a thing. Nope, because the next one is definitely an orangey brown, and every time I look at this shadow name in the palette, I read it as super yum, but it's actually summer yum, which still doesn't make any sense. But this is definitely another one of my favorite shadows in the palette. It is that nice burnt umber. Does anybody say that anymore? I felt like that was always like a crayon in the box, burnt umber. It definitely is like a very nice orangey, bright, magical, brownish sort of color, and I am probably gonna hit pan on that one definitely for sure. And then the last shade in the palette is Talk Derby to me, and I don't understand what that is referencing. Derby. All I can think of is like the Kentucky Derby, which is in Kentucky and not in Georgia, which has to do with peaches. I don't know what's going on here. If somebody understands what this shadow name means, please debunk it down below. Let me know what that means. This shadow looks like it is going to be, once again, very dark and plummy, like in the palette, but when I swatch it, it almost looks more black, right? Are you guys seeing that? However, it does have magical purple glitter in it to make this beautiful shimmer shade. I like it, but this one is one that I feel like I'm gonna have to kind of work with a little bit. It is a little bit hard for me to blend at the moment. Still didn't stop me from using it today though, because that is what I have on in the crease of my glass balls. But I think that there is just so much of the purple glitter that that's why it looks purple, and then you put it on and it's kind of more black. Either way, I like it. It's a beautiful color. No complaints from me. That is pretty much it. I also really thoroughly enjoy this adorable little smiling peach, which is the palette's mascot. Doesn't he look so friendly? I feel like definitely this video is long enough just with me kind of going through and swatching each and every one of the colors and like giving my 2 cents about it all. For me, this palette is definitely going to be a new favorite. I will just say I am still extremely attached to the Chocolate Bonbons palette. So we will see ultimately if I start reaching for this one more or if I am still stuck on this palette. I thought maybe the peanut butter and jelly palette would get me to stray away from the Chocolate Bonbons, but I have both of these in front of my face all the time and I still always end up grabbing for this one. So it will be interesting to see in a couple months if I end up grabbing the peach palette more than this one. Who's gonna win this contest? Who's gonna win the contest? I don't know. Thank you guys so much for being patient with me and giving me half a minute to put this up. I know I started posting about this on Snapchat a ridiculously long time ago, being like, who wants swatches? LOL. And then I just now got around to it like a month later. It's sad, but thank you guys so much for being patient, for being here, for hanging out with me, for watching. If you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below, subscribe, become a member of the Swamp Family, and give an alligator its wings. Also, if you want, you can like me on Facebook, facebook.com/graveyardgirl, or you can follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, or Instagram at graveyardgirl. Same way it's spelled here. I love you guys so much, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye!